You're not overreacting. Your co-parent is running a playbook, and every single move they make is deliberate. If custody exchanges leave you feeling defeated, if you rehearse texts 5 times before you hit send, or if Sunday nights fill with dread because Monday morning's coming, you're not dealing with a difficult personality. You're dealing with someone who is at war with you. And once you see their tactics for what they actually are, everything changes. I'm Gus, and for years I thought I was the problem. Every message turned into a battle. Every schedule change became a full-blown war. I spent hours crafting the perfect message, trying to avoid conflict. It never worked. Because you can't negotiate peace with someone who's fighting a war. What finally changed everything was realizing that high conflict co-parenting isn't 2 people disagreeing, it's 1 person running a campaign. And you've been trying to play by the rules that don't exist in their game. Today, I'm walking you through 7 specific tactics high conflict co-parents use, real patterns, and the exact moves they make in your daily life. And I'm saving the most dangerous one for last because it's the hardest one to spot, and it does the most damage. The strategies that work with reasonable people will fail you here. Compromise gets weaponized against you. Taking the high road will drain you completely. You need different tools. Tactic number 1, they turn simple requests into a battle. You ask to switch weekends because your daughter has a soccer tournament. A reasonable co-parent says, sure, or let me check. A co-parent who is at war with you sends you an email that goes on and brings up things from years ago. They question your commitment as a father, and they still don't answer the actual question. And what happens next is where it gets really calculated. They escalate, they deflect, and they attack your character. They make you defend yourself against accusations that have nothing to do with the original request. And suddenly, you're not talking about soccer practice anymore. You're defending yourself against a version of yourself that doesn't exist. This isn't communication breakdown. This is a tactic. And when someone consistently turns simple logistics into emotional warfare, that's tactic number 1. But that's just the opening move. Tactic 2 is where things get genuinely disorienting. Tactic number 2, they rewrite reality. You have a clear memory of agreeing to something, you might even have it in writing, but suddenly that never happened, you're misremembering, you're making things up. You're twisting the truth. This is called gaslighting. And it's not accidental, it's one of the most effective tools in a high conflict playbook. Because it makes you question yourself, and the way it actually works inside your brain is unsettling. When someone confidently denies your reality, your brain does a fact check. Even when you know you're right, there's a split second of, wait, did that actually happen? And that moment of doubt, that's the point. You do that 50 times, 100 times, and you stop trusting your own memory. You start keeping obsessive records, you screenshot everything, not because you're paranoid, because you have to. Which brings us to the pattern that confused me the most. Tactic number 3. The rules only apply to you. They demand detailed schedules weeks in advance, then they change plans without warning. They insist on clear communication, but ignore your messages for days. They lecture you about being consistent for the kids, and then cancel their custody time whenever it's inconvenient. And the reason this one drives men completely crazy is they genuinely believe the rules should be different for them. In their mind, their reasons are valid, yours are excuses. Their delays are justified, yours are irresponsible. This isn't about fairness, it's about control. And when the rules only apply to one person, that's not a disagreement. That's an asymmetry built into the game. And it's exactly how a war is fought. I spent months trying to point out these contradictions. They never saw it because the double standard isn't a bug, it's the feature. And this next tactic is where the emotional manipulation kicks in. Tactic number 4, every conversation gets redirected, away from the kids and back to them. You suggest therapy for your daughter who's struggling with a divorce. The response, you're just trying to make me look like a bad parent. You ask to coordinate bedtimes because your son is exhausted. The response, stop trying to control my parenting time. Notice what just happened? Both times you brought up the child's needs. Both times they responded with their own victimhood. In high conflict dynamics, every conversation eventually gets redirected. Their feelings, their rights, their victimization. The actual child disappears from the equation. I remember trying to discuss my son's anxiety with his mother. 20 minutes in, I was somehow defending myself against accusations about the relationship. We never actually talked about his anxiety. But the most exhausting pattern is still ahead. Tactic number 5. Crisis mode is the default setting. There's always an emergency, always a problem, always something urgent, last minute changes, texts that read like threats, accusations out of nowhere. And most of these crises aren't actually crises at all. Your daughter forgot her jacket at your house. In normal co-parenting, that's, can you bring it tomorrow? In high conflict co-parenting, that becomes, you always forget things. The kids are suffering. I'm documenting this. The pattern isn't occasional real emergencies. Those happen everywhere. The pattern is manufactured urgency around normal, everyday events. Why? Because crisis keeps you reactive. When you're always putting out fires, you never have time to set boundaries or think strategically. Your nervous system stays locked in flight or fight. And that's exactly what this tactic needs. If you feel more stressed about co-parenting logistics than actual parenting, that's tactic 5. And this next one is more subtle, but the damage is bigger. Tactic number 6, they target your support system. Your new partner is dangerous. Your parents are manipulative. Your friends are a bad influence. Anyone who supports you becomes a threat. And this one is subtle. It doesn't feel like an attack at first. It feels like concern. But isolation is one of the oldest control tactics in the book. If they can convince you to convince yourself that everyone around you is wrong, you lose your perspective. You stop getting reality checks from people who actually care about you. I stopped mentioning my girlfriend in conversations because it always triggered a conflict cycle. I stopped asking my friends for help because it gave ammunition. I got smaller and smaller, trying to keep the peace. If you're hiding parts of your life to avoid conflict, that's tactic number 6. And now we get to the one I saved for last, the most dangerous tactic, the one that's hardest to even see. This is the one I saved for last because it's the most exhausting and it's the hardest to even recognize as a tactic. Tactic number 7, they make the game unwinnable. You arrive early for pickup, you're controlling and obsessive about time. You arrive on time, you're barely meeting minimum requirements. You arrive 2 minutes late, you're irresponsible. There's no right answer. Because the goal was never resolution. The goal is to keep you in a constant state of trying to prove yourself. So you start performing, you document everything, you craft perfect emails, you arrive exactly on time, not because it will work, but because you're terrified of giving them ammunition. When nothing you do prevents the conflict, that's when you know this isn't a relationship problem, this isn't bad communication, this is war. And you've been trying to win a game that was rigged from the start. If you recognize even 3 or 4 of these tactics in your situation, you're not dealing with normal post-divorce friction, you're dealing with someone running a deliberate playbook. The strategies that work with reasonable people will fail you here. Compromise gets weaponized against you, and taking the high road will drain you completely. The free resource guide in the description, that's your first tool. Everything I wish I had. So grab it tonight and hit subscribe, because I'm building more on this channel specifically for situations like yours, and you're going to want to be here for what's coming. I'll catch you on the next one.